Hi, no one likes to make mistakes in Excel, and less so, deal with the ones made by others. However, it's an unavoidable part of our usual work in Excel. Today, let's try to understand what does Excel try to tell us through the error messages, and how can we fix them.
Okay, let's start with the ref error. Ref stands for reference, which means that the error appears when there is an issue with any reference to other cell. Here are a few examples of when it can appear. First example is when you had a link, let's say to cell A1, and then after some operations you deleted this row. You will see the ref mistake immediately in the file. The issue with this specific mistake is that you have no idea what happened, because there is no track of which cell was killed. Also, the ref mistake can appear when you have incorrect formula. For instance, let's imagine we have an index formula which as an argument takes the element which has only 2 cells, and we want to extract the element number 5. Definitely this element doesn't exist in this array. You see a ref as a result. If you put here, for instance, reference number 2, the formula will work. Example number 3 is just a variation of the example number 2. Again, we use the formula which has a reference to the element which doesn't exist. In this case, I use offset formula. If you don't know how it works, it essentially allows you to select any random array. You just need to define the starting point, which is A1 in this example. Then the shift from the starting point, I put -1 row and +1 column, and the size of the array, which is 1 by 1. As you can see here, I put the row step -1, which means that it refers to the row which is above the row number 1, and definitely this one doesn't exist. If we change the formula from -1 to +1, it will work properly. The second mistake, quite popular, which is diff 0, and the name of this mistake is explicit. So whenever there is division by 0, it gives you a mistake. The typical occurrence of this mistake is when you try to calculate some average rates, average sales, average price, average cost, when you need to divide certain sum of values by the number of elements. The next error on the list is value. This one appears when you try to apply the operation to the element of the wrong type. Let's look at example number 1. Here we perform the simple operation, which is the sum of 2 elements, 1 plus 2. The operation sum could be applied only to numbers. And if we change the value of one of the elements to the text, let's say ASD, the sum operation can be performed, and as a result you see the value mistake. Another typical case when you can face this mistake is when you work with the dates. When the date is defined properly, like is shown here, you can apply date functions to it. In this case we retrieve the months of the date. However, in some cases people simply hard-code the date manually as a text, put March, and in this case definitely the operation month cannot be applied to the text because it works properly only with the dates. Another extremely popular mistake is NA, which stands for not available. This one is very popular when you use any search functions such as match, VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, all the similar ones. Let's look at the example. Here we use formula match and we try to find element ABC in the element ABC, and definitely the result is 1. However, if we change the value of the element and it cannot be found, as a result you get a name mistake. Name mistake appears when you refer to the reserved area name which doesn't exist. Here are a few common cases in which you can face this error. First example, you have a reference to a name which you didn't define. Second typical case is when you perform certain operations with the text and you simply forgot to put the quotes around it. In this case, the part without quotes will be treated as a predefined name. In this case, if the name of the area doesn't exist, you will face a mistake. The third case is when you have a reference to a proper name, but then due to whatever reason, you killed it. In this case, you will again face the name error. A bit less popular error, which still appears from time to time, is the NULL. And this one stands for number. This error appears when you try to break the mathematical rules and apply certain operation to the number which cannot be applied. For example, your formula tries to take the square root from the negative number, or for instance, you try to put the number -1 to the power of -0.5. Try to avoid mathematical mistakes and you will avoid this error. Another relatively popular error which was added to Excel a few versions ago is the spill. If it appears, it essentially means that the output of your formula is the range with the size bigger than 1 by 1. Let's try to calculate the sum of 2 arrays of the same size. And the size of each of them is 1 by 3. In this case, the result of this operation will be also the array of the same size. And each element of the resulting array represents the sum of the respective elements of the arguments. As you can see, despite the fact that we use only one cell to input the formula, Excel automatically expanded it to show you the full result. However, what happens if the cells which Excel tries to use are already used then you will have the spill formula. If you select this cell with the spill formula, it will show you the area which it tries to use, and you will see that there are some elements inside it. In all cases, I recommend not to use the formulas in which you don't know the size of the output. But if you decide to use these formulas, please ensure that there is enough space for Excel to show you the output. And the last error on our list today is the null. Before explaining when it appears, let me show you some functionality which Excel has. You can use some formulas, for example, sum, and as an argument, take multiple arrays. If you take one array, then you put space and you take another array. And as a result, it will show you the sum of the elements which lay in the intersection of these arrays. So in this case, if we extend the second array, the result will be the sum of these two elements. So, and in cases when you try to use this functionality of Excel, if your arrays are not intersected, let's say like this, the operation cannot be performed and the result is no. And this is not the most common case when people make this mistake. The most common case is when you simply forgot to put a comma or other separator between the elements of your sum function.
I hope the video helped you become more comfortable when dealing with errors. Thank you and see you in the next one.